Hello, and welcome to my Mass Effect Andromeda review. So, I guess everybody's thinking, to buy or not to buy? That is the question, and today I'm hoping to help give you some answers. Let's start this off by saying I'm a bit of a BioWare fangirl. I've bought and played every Dragon Age and Mass Effect, and before that I ate at Baldur's Gate and Jade Dynasty while growing up. I love RPGs. My goal here is to try to not sell you this game, but to give you some insight that isn't going to be clouded over with, I hate this game, or I love this game. So far, I'm in the middle. Let's start with the main story. Now, I only played this for about 4 hours, but I got a good idea of how things worked. For instance, combat, dialogue options, and all the other ins and outs. So, without further ado, let's start with facial animations. I'm sure you've heard it over and over again. Now, the facial animations they're not horrible. I find that playing Sarah Ryder versus Scott, I noticed way more issues with the faces than I did with Scott. Her face has this, oh god, shock, deadpan. It's just, her face is a little scary at times, and it did break the immersion for me every now and again. Scott, he isn't lacking where Sarah is. There are still some facial issues, but I didn't notice them as badly as I did with Sarah. But other than that, though, besides the twins, I found that most characters had facial animations that were fine. In fact, PB had some of the best ones I had seen, along with Dr. Lexi, and Drac, and Vetra. They were all fine. I would say that the humans came out of this game looking more shocked and scared, which I suppose going to a new galaxy would produce this type of look, but throughout conversations, sometimes when they're very emotional, you would expect a slight change in the animation when there is none, and that was a bit of an immersion breaker there. I wish Sarah wouldn't have such a shocked expression 24/7, but for the most part, I was able to overlook it. Now on to combat. Oh, that combat. Now, for someone who doesn't play many shooters, I found the combat a bit hard for me to sink right into. I struggled a bit with how some guns had such insane sensitivity and others didn't. From what I can tell, there is no way to adjust your sensitivity, which hampers me quite a bit in some aspects, but again, I just had to get used to it. The jump jet is a neat little addition to combat, and it's fun to use, but it does make you a target up there, which got me killed a few times, so I stopped doing the cool jump up in the air and shooting at people thing. However, the game is nice enough to hold your hand and explain, if you care to, look further into the skills and the different types of tactics you wish to use. And that's something that BioWare was nice enough to do, probably for people like me who suck at shooters. So, for someone who would come into this blind and new, at least there's that. The Nomad. I hate driving in video games, and the Nomad handles better than most other cars I've driven. However, I find at times I have some issues with controlling it and turning, but that's because it picks up speed so fast. It's a hassle to make it slow down constantly because I suck at driving, but that's mainly on me, I'm guessing. Overall, I wouldn't pick any other car to drive. It's better than the Mako was, and most other cars I've driven in other games, except maybe for the Saints Row 3 series, where they made sure to specifically get those cars to handle very well. And that's about all I had to say about the Nomad. It does go over most terrains. It goes over rocks. It can go up a hill, although you have to switch it to a 6-wheel drive to do so. I'm sure you can upgrade the car so that you'll have an easier time. The one thing that I found a little annoying was the hazards. I was on the EOS for my trial, and I noticed that the Nomad would slowly, get damaged, and there wasn't a lot of places to really recharge that. So I understand why it's there. It was still a little tiny bit annoying. Now on to multiplayer. Most of my trial time was sunk into this. I had so much fun with it. I'm also more... I enjoyed it because it allowed you to play classes, which I'm used to since I played the other Mass Effects comparatively to the single-player campaign where I'm still trying to figure out everything and how to use profiles correctly. It's more helpful in trying to learn skills and classes and try to understand what you want to do with your character if you have no clue what to do. So that's where I would suggest trying out multiplayer. It's also good when you need a break from the single player campaign. I got better with combat and generally getting used to that junk pack. However, I do find I have troubles getting up to certain places without a few tries, but I hope I get better with practice. They have a mute feature in the lobby, which I adore. So many people have open microphones. People, stop it, okay? Just don't keep your mic open if you're not going to talk. But most of the time, they were just background noises like a TV, music, people talking, or just static, and it was very annoying. So thank God for the mute. Muting was a nice touch. At times, though, I would get into lobbies and they'd be very laggy. I think that's because they're hosted by a person, and I would maybe be, somewhere else and the connection wouldn't be as good. But it got to the point where I couldn't play in that person's game because it'd be so laggy, and I'd leave the game to go find a new lobby to join, and I would rejoin that same game 5 times over. It kind of blew my mood, and sometimes I'd take a break from multiplayer when that type of stuff would happen. So I hope they can patch something maybe to make it so it'll try to put you in with someone who's close to your area so that you don't bounce around and get stuck everywhere when you're trying to play a shooter. Resource and gathering, they brought back mining, but it's a bit different this time. I found that the scanner is alright. It's not as annoying as Dragon Age Inquisitions was with pressing a key every few moments. You press one key, and then the scanner's up, and it doesn't break unless you start sprinting or go into combat, which is nice. I found that with the Nomad, you could drive around, and there are certain areas where you could deploy a mining drone, but I'm not quite sure what else to do with that. I guess that's all there's really it is to it, so let's move on. So, the main question here is, should you buy this game? And my answer? Yes, but I need to put this here. Only if you yourself are a fan of the previous games. As someone who's loved my Shepherd, this game was new, and yes, I miss the old crew and characters, but this is a new chapter, a new beginning. The story and voice acting so far are amazing. The animations are not game-breaking in any way, at least for me. As I said, I could overlook them. Only every now and again do I come out of my immersion to see the horror upon my Sarah writer's face. BioWare, that was a bit... The glitches are hardly there for me. I've only run into a few, but they didn't break the game, they didn't crash my game. I was able to get out of the glitch just by reloading from my last save, which I saved frequently, so it was pretty easy to do. The game just came out, and everybody's so mixed about it. And I only have to say is, if you don't like this game, I'm sorry that you don't like this game. I'm sorry if you bought it and now you want your refund, or I'm sorry if you were thinking of buying it and now your hopes are crushed. The thing is, don't go out of your way to ruin it for other people. I'm not as hyped as I once was about this game. The excitement was killing me until I got my hands on this trial, and once I played the trial, I realized I wasn't as excited anymore. I could wait for Tuesday. It wasn't something I needed to play anymore. It wasn't something that I was waiting to sink all my time and effort into. And that was a bit disheartening. But at the same time, yes, I'm going to play it. Yes, I want to play it. I want to see how the story ends. I want to see how everything ends. And to people who are trying to go out of their way to spoil things on Reddit, because there's people who've already put up playthroughs where it's basically, the end of the game. And people can see the ending if they want to, but if they don't spoil things. And also to people who are hopeful, don't go crushing somebody else's hopes, thinking, oh, I'm trying to save them from the same disappointment I had. You're not that person, and you will never be that person or experience what they experience. That's the beautiful thing about life, though, isn't it? It's an experience, and it's our own personal one. So don't try to influence another person's experience based upon your own. That being said, yes, buy this game if you enjoy RPGs with shooter-type combat, because this is what this is. It's not really an exploring game. I mean, yes, you get to drive around and explore and look for resources and do side quests, but this game at its core is a shooter with some RPG elements. So if you're into that, you'll like this game. The animations will not ruin it for you. I highly doubt it would. If you were able to invest $60 into a game, don't let facial animations ruin it. I guess this is where I'm going to leave it off. All the cons do not outweigh my perspective of goodness. I enjoyed my 10-hour trial, and I can't wait to play it once more. I'll probably invest most of my time into multiplayer, because that's where it really shined for me, was there. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my review, and please leave a comment or how you yourself enjoyed the trial, if you did partake in it, or if you're looking forward to the game or not. I do not want to see anybody just spouting negativity, though, because that's just gonna ruin everything, basically. Yeah.
No, it's too late.